The last night in the woods, a group of 5 friends, all in their mid-20s, decided to spend one last night together before one of them moved to another country. They had been best friends since childhood, and they wanted to make this last night a memorable one. They thought it would be a great idea to go camping in the woods where they used to play as kids. The forest was known to be a bit spooky at night, but they were not afraid. They had been there many times before, and they knew the woods like the back of their hands. They packed their bags with all the necessary equipment, and they set off into the woods just as the sun began to set. As they made their way deeper into the forest, they joked and reminisced about old times. They talked about their dreams and aspirations, and they promised to keep in touch even after their friend had moved away. As the night fell, they reached a clearing and set up camp. They built a fire and gathered around it, enjoying the warmth and the light. They opened a bottle of wine and toasted to their friendship. They talked about their hopes and fears, their triumphs and failures. They laughed and joked about how silly they were being, but as the night grew darker, they began to feel uneasy. It seemed as though they were being watched. One of the friends suggested they play a game of truth or dare to lighten the mood. They all agreed, and soon they were taking turns daring each other to do silly things. But then it was one friend's turn to choose between truth or dare, and he chose truth. The friend who was asking the questions then asked him, "Have you ever had a premonition? You know, like a feeling that something terrible was going to happen?" The friend hesitated before nodding slowly. "Yeah, actually," he said. "I had a dream a few days ago that we were all in this forest, and something was chasing us. We were all screaming and running, but it caught up to us and I woke up before I could see what it was." The group was quiet for a moment, and then one of the friends laughed. "Come on, man, it was just a dream. You don't really think something's going to happen to us, do you?" The friend shrugged, trying to shake off the feeling of unease that was creeping up on him. "No, I guess not." As the night wore on, the friends became increasingly paranoid. Every rustle in the bushes, every snap of a twig, made them jump. They started to think that maybe they should pack up and leave, but then one of the friends suggested they stay a little longer and tell one more story. The friend who had the premonition volunteered to go first. He started telling a story about a group of friends who go camping in the woods and are chased by an unknown creature. The story was chilling, and the friends were on the edge of their seats. But then, just as the story was reaching its climax, something crashed through the bushes behind them. They all jumped to their feet, screaming in terror. A creature, unlike anything they had ever seen before, emerged from the trees. Its eyes glowed in the darkness, and its long, sharp claws glinted in the firelight. The friends ran, screaming and stumbling through the forest. They could hear the creature chasing them, its heavy breathing echoing in the darkness. They ran until they reached a clearing, and then they stopped to catch their breath. It was then that they realized that they were surrounded by the creatures, dozens of them, all with glowing eyes and sharp claws. The friends stood frozen in terror as the creatures closed in on them. The creatures were humanoid in shape, but their skin was a sickly shade of gray, and their eyes glowed with an otherworldly light. The friends could see that the creatures' claws were sharp and gleaming, and they knew that they stood no chance against them. The friends tried to run, but the creatures were too fast. They were surrounded and trapped, with no way out. The creatures closed in on them, their claws poised to strike. But then something strange happened. The creatures suddenly stopped, as if frozen in time. They stood there, motionless, their eyes still glowing in the darkness. The friends stood there, too, frozen in terror and confusion. They didn't know what was happening or why the creatures had stopped. They just knew that they had to get away. They started to back away slowly, inching their way towards the edge of the clearing. But just as they were about to make a run for it, they heard a strange, whispering voice in their heads. "Stay," the voice said. "Stay and watch." The friends tried to ignore the voice, but it was persistent. It kept urging them to stay and watch, to witness what was about to happen. Against their better judgment, the friends decided to stay. They watched as the creatures began to move again, slowly and purposefully. They could see that the creatures were heading towards a nearby tree, where they began to claw and scratch at the trunk. As the friends watched, a strange, otherworldly portal opened up in the tree. The creatures disappeared through the portal one by one, until they were all gone. The friends were left standing in the clearing, confused and shaken. They didn't know what had just happened, but they knew that they had narrowly escaped something truly terrifying. They packed up their belongings and left the forest, vowing never to return. They never spoke of the incident again, but they knew that it would haunt them for the rest of their lives. Years later, one of the friends returned to the forest. He had never been able to forget the strange and terrifying experience he had had there. But when he arrived, he found that the forest was gone. In its place stood a sprawling city, with no sign of the woods or the creatures that had once lived there. The friend never spoke of the incident again, but he knew that he would never forget it. He knew that he had witnessed something truly otherworldly, and he could only wonder what other mysteries lay hidden in the world around him. The friend spent years trying to find an explanation for what he had witnessed that night in the forest. He scoured the internet, read books on the occult and supernatural, and even consulted with experts in the field. But no one could provide him with a satisfactory explanation. Despite his efforts, the friend eventually gave up on his quest for answers. He went on to live a normal life, getting a job, starting a family, and raising children of his own. But as he grew older, the memory of the strange and terrifying experience in the forest began to resurface. He couldn't shake the feeling that there was more to the world than he had ever imagined, that there were things lurking in the shadows that he couldn't begin to understand. Finally, one day, he decided to take matters into his own hands. He set out to explore the world, to seek out the hidden mysteries and secrets that he knew were out there. He traveled to the farthest corners of the globe, seeking out ancient ruins, hidden temples, and forgotten relics. He talked to shamans and mystics, searching for clues to the mysteries of the universe. And finally, after years of searching, he found what he had been looking for. In a remote corner of the world, he discovered a portal, just like the one he had seen in the forest all those years ago. With trembling hands, he stepped through the portal, unsure of what he would find on the other side. But when he emerged, he found himself in a world unlike he had ever imagined. It was a world of magic and wonder, a world where creatures of myth and legend roam free. He saw unicorns and griffins, dragons and griffins, all living together in harmony. The friend was stunned, overwhelmed by the beauty and magic of this new world. He knew that he had found what he had been searching for all these years, and he vowed to explore every corner of this new realm. And so he did. He spent the rest of his life exploring the magical world beyond the portal, uncovering ancient secrets and unlocking the mysteries of the universe. In the end, the friend passed away, content in the knowledge that he had found what he had been searching for all along. He had discovered a world beyond his wildest dreams, a world of magic and wonder that had been hidden from him for so long. And as he closed his eyes for the final time, he knew that he had been given a gift that few others had ever known. He had been given the gift of discovery, the gift of wonder, and the gift of a life truly lived.